Right, as you can see, cracked on again after work. It's Friday. I'm picking up the car Saturday. I picked up some box section, some inch. I think it's 2.5 or 3 mil box section to frame up the cabriolet as well when I take the floor out. I've cut this section of floor out here. If I bring you in, I've cut across so that it meets the chassis leg, the original chassis leg at the front, and there's a mount underneath the floor there. So I've gone halfway across the mount, so you're not going to be able to see what's been done underneath. I'm then going to lap across. I've taken the seat anchorage out. I bought some proper spot weld drill bits as well, just so that I didn't interfere with things like the tunnel and the floor areas. So what I'll do is I'll run a new piece in there right the way up to the edge, and I'll butt it up against this steel like it is there, and then that's going to get seam welded all the way across. And I've still got the piece to fill in that end as well, and I'll even put the box back on the front, but we'll just basically seam weld all here and linish it back, and then I'll make the extra chassis leg afterwards, and I'll do that from underneath. But it should make for a relatively invisible repair. I'll run a couple of beads down the frame just to give it a little bit more strength. I might even do them at the angle, do a few at the angle. I just need to make sure that I mix, so obviously I'll have to prep it up to show where that's going to be, so that we don't put a bead in that. Maybe even one straight bead there, and then a couple of angles and an angle there, and then I can replicate that potentially on this side here, because that's a different shaped floor, that side, but it has got another one of them structural mounts, so potentially I can just make them match at the back. And then the idea is, at least all the way down there from front to back, you won't even be able to tell from underneath, other than obviously a bead rolled section, that any work's been done. From the top, I'll linish it back as best as possible, but you're always going to be able to tell work's been done here. I've added that bracket there, and what that's for is the mx5 has got a fuel release and a petrol flat release rather, and a boot release. I'm going to try and refit them and put the cable in back, and that goes into the back of the center console, which I'm going to refit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make a template for this. It doesn't even need to be that close, as long as I leave a gap there to penetrate both panels and into this. Drill a couple of holes in it for spot welds, and a few holes across there. That bit, I think I'll probably seam weld the back, and then I'll spot weld from underneath. I may, in the end, stitch weld just every inch or so all the way down the tunnel, just to stop any potential flexing, which I can do from the top as it's like this. But I'm not 100% on that, because the front and back was double seamed, but the floor isn't, it's just single. And to be honest with you, it came out very, very easily. So a little bit of extra strength, I don't think is going to hurt. I definitely need to renew this section because it's just a bit scruffy, but I need to get the cabriolet back to see what I'm keeping. I don't think I'm going to keep any of the sills now, because the Escort has got like a box section around the sills, which I'll try and put in a picture to show you now.
So as you can see on this picture, it's like a split section of the sills. What I'm hoping to do is take the floor out, potentially the inner sill, and just leave the outer and the box section, and hopefully weld up to that. I have a feeling mine are going to be pretty rotten, so I'll probably have to rebuild the whole thing, but I can't see that being a problem.
Right, I might as well cut in here because my phone rang. But as you can see, I've spot welded the panelling across here. I just started to get the seat mount in, because as you can see the floor goes in a little bit, it's in the way. Well, I don't know if you can see, but what I'm going to do is weld it down and then throw a bolt through just to bend the steel out the way, because I'd rather it be there for strength. Spot welded it round, or puddle welded it, whatever you call it. I am going to seam weld that corner, I think, in there, because that's going to be covered. In fact, that bit's not going to be covered, so I might leave that bit, but I'll seam weld that because this bit's going to have another piece on it. That's welded down there, hopefully flush, so that when I linish it back, the panels will meet together. And then obviously seam welded all the way down there. I'm going to lift, while I've got it stopped, I might as well lift the car up and have a look what it looks like from underneath. Right, so here's how we're looking from underneath. A couple of tiny little pinholes, but to be honest with you, by the time it's painted, they're not going to matter because there's another chassis leg going around there. Where the transition is there, so you can't even see it. So there'll be a floor section here that'll come across, a chassis rail there, so you won't even see where it changes to the new steel. And that's how we're looking at the back. So welded nicely to the new section of floor and nice and flush all the way through. This got a little bit distorted obviously when I was unpicking it, so I will have to tap that back up, but that's not going to be a problem. So I just need to tap that back up there and then fill in the holes, which again, straightforward. This side, I don't even know what I'm going to do with yet. I think I'm going to end up having to change, I think, this full floor depending on how the Escort meets up. But if you compare how that's looking now with the nice bead rolls in it, looks nice and neat compared to this side. This is the factory one, so it has got a bit of a rut in it, just one there. When I do it, I'll do similar again. For some reason that's what it is. I was going to say, for some reason the tunnel's thinner on this side than this side, but that's because they've obviously done it for strength, because it thins out in that section there. I think the mounting point, if it's the same as this one, is for some sort of brace that goes across that was missing on my car. So that's the mount there that we're welded to. So obviously it's seam welded across the middle because that will have picked up the weld, and it's spot welded onto as well. So hopefully it'll be solid, but I'm pleased. I think it's a nice transition anyway. Alright, so typically for me, while it was up in the air, I thought I'd spot weld them bits in. So as you can see, they've been filled. Just needs linishing back. I filled in this corner as well. All that's obviously going to get seam sealed anyway. So we've got seam sealer going on there, all the way around there, down all the seams. But yeah, definitely looking good. I'm going to lower it down now, have a look at how the penetration is from them welds I've just done. Right, so you can see from the top the extra welds that went in at the bottom, and they're definitely welded through. So I'm just going to seam weld this corner here. It was like that originally, it was sort of a bit of flopped over, which is odd, I know. I was going to seam weld that, but I don't think I'm going to bother now. I'll just let the floor flow into it. I'll fill these little holes that I saw from underneath. There's only 2, and I don't know if I've got any flap discs, but I do need to flap that down. I also need to seam the old floor up there, so I need to get that done and fill that hole. That's from when I took them off. I don't want to put this side on yet. In fact, I'm not even going to put that back on because I may end up remaking these. But we're getting there. I've just linished back the join and it's looking pretty good, so by the time that's primered, you won't even be able to tell there's a join in the panel. I've gone across the line as well. Obviously it's going to get seam sealed, but I've straightened it up so that it runs in line as well. Just filled that back corner and it needs cleaning. Still need to clean these welds up. I'm just gonna knock them back a little bit. I'm not gonna go over the top. And same with this, I need like a 40 grit flap disc or maybe a 60, and I'll just knock the welds back all the way to over there. It'll probably have some sound deadening put on this anyway, because I did take some off from the front. There's no tinniness in this. The only bit that's a little bit is because I've not finished with this yet. I'm not finished welding that in, but I want to just make sure everything fits right, and I want to see how the screen sits before I commit to that 100%.